Sorry about that, I lost my sound for a minute. So go ahead and getting into our next phase of our analysis is focusing on our land footer when we take that stride. So as you get yourself going for your load up, everything's looks really good. You have a nice clean line in regards to our swing from start to finish. And one thing I do see in regards to backing this up a few frames is we want to start kind of wide, and I do like that. The only thing we got to make sure is that we don't get too wide. So just have a tendency is you want to be somewhere in the middle of being too wide or too narrow. And if this really works for you, then you can obviously stick with it and stay with it. If you lose a little bit of power, you might want to consider bringing it in a little bit, because you do get pretty wide in regards to contact. But again, it just depends on how successful you've been with it being that wide here. One thing I did see that we do want to work on in regards to that is we don't have much of a stride. We just kind of take your foot and you go about a half a stride length, and we don't have much of a load, and that's okay. One thing I did see that we want to work on is this bottom arm, and making sure that this doesn't get too straight on us too early. And you'll notice here we call this casting, and that's going to make us late sometimes on really fast pitching or faster pitching. It's going to take a little bit of power. So we can't be short to the ball anymore. We begin to be long to it. So ideally we want to be obviously short to the ball and long through the ball, but you can see in this arm that it gets locked out a little bit, a little bit early. So make sure you can see in regards to our start, you have a good angle on that arm. Try to establish that angle longer, and what you want to do is just more take the knob a little bit more towards the pitcher, so you can kind of keep that nice and bent in that arm, and then get extension longer or later, so you're not going to have that barring of that arm. You can see right there I get it pretty locked out, and I'm at full lock right here. And you still want to have a nice little angle in that arm, and that's going to help me be short to the ball compared to having that thing lock out. So you land on a nice firm front leg for the rotation of our swing, not a lot of head movement, so that's good. This one you kind of got at the end of our swing. You went to go get it a little bit, probably just because it's slower for BP speed for taking these videos. But looking at freeze frame at point of contact, you do want that head to be back a little bit more. Make sure you let that ball travel. Don't worry so much about going to get it. And again, when you finish, everything's in pretty good shape as far as don't worry about so much of locking out that front leg. I would bring your feet in a little bit just to get a little bit better balance. One thing I do see is that your head's a little bit forward. You can see if we draw a line of your angle, this wants to be a straight line, and you can see that your head angle's forward a little bit. So you want to make sure that your head stays back here in this angle. So if I draw a circle around where your helmet wants to be right in the middle of this green circle, in regards to that's just important to have that there. I would recommend to bring in that foot just a little bit on that front. It just gives you a little bit more leverage and a little bit stronger. If you bring that front foot maybe back to about here, I think you might be a little bit more balanced. But that's something for you to try and mess around with. One thing you do want to do too is make sure when you finish that you finish high. You can see that your hands are down kind of low, and the higher you finish, the more you can stay through the baseball. So I'd kind of finish up in this area to make sure that bad angle kind of finishes there. So you want to be shorter to it. You want to maybe shorten down that stride a little bit. You need to keep the head back a little bit and finish a little bit higher. It's going to help you just be more consistent. You can see how we kind of lose balance here on our legs. So I think just toning that down and having that in a little bit is going to really help you in regards to that. So looking at another swing here as I go, when you get yourself back, this is another swing. Try to have some type of movement backwards. Right now when you start, everything's just kind of in the middle, and then you kind of just go forward. So what's going to happen is we have a tendency to drift a little bit, or we want to go get the ball, and I think you kind of getting your load, having something go back, we call it just a load, a coil, whatever you want to call it, to have something that goes back before we go forward, and I think that's going to help you. And what you can do is you can do on that when you're standing in on pitchers for their bullpens, and just work on your timing, where you kind of, as he throws it, you kind of load yourself up, go back a little bit, and then you guys kind of meet back in the middle of where you're going to make contact with the ball. So just something to work on there. This one you did stay back. nice. Really good on this one. Again, I would even you don't have to worry about locking that front leg out so much. That is very locked, and that's okay. It just depends, but you don't have to make it so locked out. If you make it more athletic, you have a tendency that your time will be more on and create a little bit more power in your swing compared to worrying about locking it out so much. But you did stride very straight. This is a really good position. Your head's looking down the barrel of the ball in a palm up, palm down position. Really good with our posture, with our head. Your front side is closed off. Really close to picture perfect. Obviously, you can pick swings apart forever, but man, this is a pretty good job. You got underneath this ball, obviously, but you can tell that people have been working with you that know what they're doing. The only thing at this point, since you're underneath it, obviously, is to try to keep that barrel a little bit higher. Try to keep that barrel above my hands as long as possible, so I can kind of work more downhill this way and really drive the baseball compared to just getting underneath it. But you stayed through it nice. Let's see where we finish. Again, try to finish a little bit higher. You have a tendency at the end of your swing to want to drop your hands down low. You can see, as if I stop this, you can see that you have your feet there, that your front heel is off the ground. So really work on trying to keep that nice and stationary. I think if you bring your feet just a hair, I think you'll be able to control that finish better in regards to making you more consistent there. So just going into another swing here as I look at the third swing that we took on you for video analysis work is just getting into stride foot. And if I go frame by frame for it, again, we went to go get this one a little bit. Not bad with our posture. A little bit better with our arm. A little bit locked out, but not bad. You're kind of leading with the knob right here. And the only thing is you just made contact a little bit more out in front. So I think just working on that point of contact. Don't worry about locking out that knee so much. You can kind of keep that front leg a little bit softer. But the key is just on your front head on this is just if I draw a line straight up, you're a little bit forward with our head. Make sure that head stays nice and back. And just think if the ball has to come to you. In order for it to be a strike, the ball's got to travel to you, and that's going to help you from going forward to going to get it. But all in all, man, really good job. You can tell a lot of people have been working with you that know what they're doing, so keep up the good work. But keep that head back. Shorten down that stride or shorten down that your feet being apart. Watch that barring of that casting of that lower hand. Work on some tee work and working on standing in on pitchers. Finishing with that your hands a little bit higher. And those are just 4 or 5 things to work on and mess around. But you're in a not too much tweaking at all. It's a very nice swing, and we wish you the best. And thanks for coming to camp.